Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Miranda Levers, COO here at Thinkific, and I am really thrilled to have Joanna Wiebe with me today, copywriter extraordinaire. If you don't know Joanna, she is the original conversion copywriter, creator of Copy Hackers, and more recently co-founder of AirStory. She's helped coach more than 50,000 people and businesses improve their copy and grow their businesses as a result. She's also traveled around the world speaking at all sorts of amazing conferences, from Inbound to MozCon, Opticon, CTA Conf, and many, many more. And so thank you so much, Joanna, for joining me today. I'm excited to chat copy with you and help our listeners hear a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Thanks for having me here. It's fun.
So right off the bat, so you were just telling me that you have just launched AirStory, which is your writing platform with a free version. So tell me about that. What do we need to know?
Well, so AirStory's brand new free version is the full product. So if you are somebody who writes like more than 2 hours a day is generally how we look at it. Like if you are in a document, even in multiple documents for more than 2 hours a day, whether that's putting together marketing plans or reviewing emails that someone's writing for a sequence for you or whatever it might be, AirStory is built for that. So it exists to help you get that kind of writing work done faster by really zeroing in on what collaboration should look like for teams, like beginning up at the starting point of working on something, like when you're gathering information to put in, like what's going to go in our emails. Like, do we all just throw ideas in a doc, or like how can we make this actually work? So so it's pretty essential kind of thing that we're doing here, where you're combining all of your notes, whether those are from Evernote or notes that you make with AirStory itself, and just making those accessible when it's time for you to write that thing. And then lots of stuff that happens on the page. But the whole goal is to just like really rethink this digital rectangle that is your writing space today, which is it's been so focused on print and kind of sticking to this world that Microsoft Word created, but that isn't, as someone who writes for a living, is suboptimal to work in that digital rectangle. So we're like, okay, let's drop the borders on it. Let's stop thinking about this page as like a piece of paper put online, and let's like really watch how people work and how they get stuff done. And that's where AirStory comes from.
Awesome. And is it primarily a collaboration tool if you're working with a team, or does it also help you if you're mostly a solo writer?
It's huge for solo writers. So we have a lot of bloggers working in AirStory because you can export straight to WordPress afterward. And bloggers tend to use a lot of input to write. Like they'll go out and do research, which they can do with AirStory Researcher, which is like a Chrome extension. So it's big with bloggers, and it's also getting pretty big with students in classrooms. So because there's this note-taking component to it, pretty good fit for classrooms to like collaborate on a single document and share notes from class together. And it's got a tabbed interface as well. So if you're like running a junior high French language class or something, and you have a bunch of cards that you've created or notes that you've created on, I don't know, whatever things you might create in French class, right? Like people are taking notes in there and they can do it together. But then you've got tabs. So each person in the class can go in and write in their own tab. But the teacher then watches the writing happen, which is kind of cool. And you can certainly absolutely do that in Google Docs. But you can also do it with in AirStory with the tabbed interface, which Google Docs just doesn't do. So I can't see what Susie's writing versus what Terrence is writing. But in AirStory, you can do exactly that, and then allow the whole classroom to create notes and share those notes so they can reuse them when it's time to write an essay or whatever it might be that you're actually going to work on, or just study in general. So a couple different groups are using it. It's collaborative, but that's not its primary purpose. It's something it can do as well, but it's not goal one right now. Really goal one, what we want to master and help people master, is getting the right ideas in the right order on the page a lot faster.
That's so exciting. I recently finished grad school, and what saved me through grad school was actually Scrivener,
Yeah.
simply because I know that, like, for me, Word and Google Docs wasn't working. And so how does it compare to something like that? Because that's quite an old piece of software, but there was definitely features that it had when it came to, as you just mentioned, being able to sort out your notes and your thoughts sort of alongside what it was that you were writing. And that was the feature that I really needed.
Yeah, and I fully agree. When I was a grad student, this is where it first started for me, when I would I would have these crazy processes where you like put all of your research into a document, and then I would print that out, cut pieces of it up, tape them around my wall.
I'm laughing because I've so done this.
Right? We've done this. And then you're like manually like pulling them down and like, did I cite this one? Which one was this from? Right? And you have to like make sure you've got the citation attached to it or the source material attached to it. And yeah, a lot of hassle. So I didn't use Scrivener. I installed it once, but it's nothing against them. I have to figure it out.
It's just like it's old software. Like it just
I
doesn't
just
behave.
didn't know what to do with it, right? Like, so there were like tutorials and things, and I didn't know, and it was like, I'll come back to it, and I just never did. But I've heard people say AirStory is like Scrivener on steroids, right? And I think that's just got a lot to do with, I think Scrivener, from what I understand, is robust with features, but older feeling is what I understand.
Exactly. And it doesn't have, like, there's no collaboration at all. Like, so it doesn't, like, it's sort of like, it's not in the cloud.
And so ours is in the cloud. So you can write on your phone, you can collaborate, of course, on your phone. Everything you can do an AirStory on your like main desktop, you can go do on your phone too. It's fully responsive, inviting other people, of course, and then exporting in any number of ways that you want to. So, but yeah, it's definitely there to be like, okay, people who write like seriously, like we're not messing around here, right? When you're a grad student, you've got like, come on, like let's get this work done already and get it done right. So that's why our clipper captures source material. So if you're writing that, instead of like pasting all your notes around on the wall, if you send all of your research that you did, let's say online, you send that back to your story project, it captures the source material. So when I drag those cards onto the page, I get a stack of citations available off to the side. So it's just like trying to eliminate all of those things that interrupt us when we're writing. It's the little interruptions that throw every writer off. Like when you're like, where's that source? What did I do? Where did I pull that from? Now you're not writing anymore. And that's like a problem. So that's one of the things we're trying to solve.
Talking about, so many of our listeners are small business owners, of course, and many of them are also course creators. And so as, as course creators and small business owners, the reality is that we're writing constantly. We're writing sales page copy. We're writing emails to prospective students. We're writing emails to our existing students. We're writing course material. And then, of course, all of our marketing material as well. So I know for us, like on our marketing team, one of the things that we've been doing recently is creating a lot of these big guides. Like we just put out a customer success guide, and it's sort of, I think it's like 6,000 words or something, and sort of it's massive. And we've got all of this collaboration amongst the team, but then also things like quotes from some of the different people that we've engaged to create that piece of content. So for something like that, where you've got all these quotes and maybe they go into that piece of writing, or maybe they go into a future one, does AirStory solve for that? Like, does it allow me to sort of have notes that I can access from multiple documents?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great use case as well. Well said. You set me up well with that one. Thank you. Yeah, the idea, of course, the more that you write, and I come from like a big tech background too, and so there's a lot of people involved and a lot of desire to have messaging consistency. Consistency is a big word, a big commonly used word in a lot of organizations and small businesses too. Like it doesn't matter if you're big or small, but you hear it a lot in big businesses. And that's where like, if you have, let's say these customer quotes and you've got them pasted somewhere and you remember them when you write the sales page, but then you forget about it when you're like putting your actual like email scripts together or whatever that might be, your email copy, if you were to put those in AirStory, and there's lots of ways to get those into AirStory, but if they become individual notes in AirStory, then when you're writing, let's say you're scripting your course inside AirStory in one of the documents, and you go in, you write the script, and you've got like multiple tabs for the different scripts for the different like lessons that you're going to run, that you're going to have. So you've created cards, you're dragging them onto the page, they've got quotes and things, they've got data points, let's say, like, because you're trying to, I mean, in my experience, creating courses, which is a big part of Copy Hackers, my other side of my business, when you're doing that, when you're creating these scripts for your videos, you're still always kind of selling people on taking the course, right? Like you're reminding them throughout, oh, this is why you're going to do email marketing, because it has a return that's 8 times higher than social media, right? So you have these little data points that you might want to bring up throughout everything you ever communicate. And you could keep those open on like a text pad.
Which is where they are now.
Right? And only you have access to them then. Yeah. But your editor doesn't, your coordinators don't have access to it, the people around your team don't. Put those into a single note inside AirStory, and anybody you have in your team who's creating their own projects and they're looking for that weird data point about the ROI for email marketing, they can just switch over to the like global note library and access everybody's data and search it by tags or by whatever word is on there. So the idea is that you shouldn't just be using information one time. It's rarely a one use, like a one and done, throw it out kind of thing. When you have a good quote from a customer, when you have a good from Steve Jobs, when you have a good quote from anywhere, or a data point, or whatever that thing is reusable information. And if that's available in a card that I can just drag onto the page whenever I'm writing anything, or I don't even have to drag it, I could just like have it handy and floating there next to me while I'm writing, that's going to improve consistency and actually make it a lot faster again to fill in that page, because you're not looking around going, is this even the right quote? Like, where's that quote I was looking for? So yeah, totally. Yeah.
And are you at the stage yet where it actually will link back? Like if I'm looking at a note, can I see where that note has also been referenced? Or not quite yet? I'm like, would you like a list of feature like requests? Because I feel like I'm going to be using your tool a lot.
That's amazing. So we actually have, this is something that we haven't got to, but we have the mock-up for it. So currently when you open up a card, you can see the card material, then you click a tab along the top of it that's like the citation, so you can see where you grabbed it originally. But the next tab that is to be built very quickly is the one that says where else it's been used. So it's like a history of usage for the card, who used it, who first created it, what other documents it's been used in, etc. It is coming. It's just not. Yes. I love the request. I love it.
Awesome. So AirStory is exciting. So because you've been working on AirStory for a while, but it hasn't had a freemium version up until now.
Yeah, exactly. When we first came out of a really early private beta, it was all free, but it was an outliner. It was just like, put your ideas down and then try to organize them. So it's much more robust now. Like it's a full writing platform that's just going to get smarter as we go, God willing. But yeah, so now we've got free. We're super excited about it. Hopefully people will be, we're already hearing good things because we've had like a wait list of people going like, I'm a blogger and I love AirStory, but I can't spend $59 a month on AirStory. I just don't have that money. And so now they're like, really? Like free? Like is it free? And it's free.
Exciting. So as a small business owner wearing, I guess, a couple of different hats now, how has it been starting up this new venture? Any like pitfalls to avoid, or lessons learned along the way? I always love those stories.
How much time do we have? So many. I mean, one of the lessons that I'm on an ongoing, like I'm constantly learning, I know it, but I have to practice it, is the idea of going all in. So my friend Nathan Barry, who runs ConvertKit, a couple years back, we were in this group together and we were sitting around outside this conference, like just having a chat while this conference was going on. I was speaking there and he was, I don't know, I think he was speaking there maybe too. So we were sitting outside, sitting around in a group of people, and Nathan Barry, prior to ConvertKit, had done training. So he did similar to what we do at Copy Hackers, to what a lot of people are probably doing with Thinkific. And he was talking about, someone asked him, oh, so when are you going to do your next course launch? And he was like, oh, no, I'm not. And we're like, what are you talking about? You're not doing a course anymore? He's like, no, I'm all in on ConvertKit. And at the time, I think he was making like $3,000 a month. So he didn't have a good reason to go all in on this, but he did. And it eventually paid off. Now and I'm not suggesting that anybody stop doing their courses, because I don't intend to. Courses they're everything. They're the reason we have AirStory, right? That we can do course launches and have really good paydays that lead to salaries. And we get to train people on the very thing that we want them to use AirStory for. So for me, I don't see going all in that way, but it is that tension, right, that you come across between the business that you have and this other side of the business that you're trying to build. So for me, I am always trying to figure out how to make AirStory and Copy Hackers work more obviously together, so that I can go all in on the whole package, rather than feeling like I'm stretched between this world of training people on how to write copy and content that converts, and this space where they can actually do that work. So they do feel like they're a fit, but I haven't actually connected the two properly. So it's not a pitfall, it's just like a problem that I'm dealing with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the hiring people thing, which is the hardest job in the world. I guarantee it. Okay, there's harder jobs, but it's a really hard job to do.
How many people do you have on your team now?
We have 6 people right now, which is a pretty typical small startup. But we've had open jobs, 3 open recs for 6 months. Can't fill them.
And you're not getting the applicants, or
we're getting really junior applicants. So part of the trick is like, well, if we had hired one of those junior people 6 months ago,
would they be more intermediate by now? Right.
Exactly. But you're like, well, I don't know. Does that mean that we now just hire junior? And maybe it does. It's just going to be a lot. We just have to prepare ourselves as a small team to spend a lot of time training that person. And then the risk, of course, is that you'll train them and they'll leave you. So it's hard. It's tough.
Yeah. Business ownership is there's always something, right? Are you looking for people locally in Calgary? Or are you looking for remote people?
We're looking, honestly, we are like, someone from Brazil applied and we're like, cool, let's talk. What's up? Can you speak English though? Because that'll help us get through this. You can't? Okay, we'll find a translator. We'll figure this out. But no, ideally they'd be someone, because part of our goal is to work more together as a team. Like I'm sure you guys have found, right? Like you get to work in the same office together.
Yeah, and we still choose everybody. Yeah, we've hired some remote workers, but only while we went through all of the immigration stuff to bring them here. But everybody's here. Yeah.
And how does that, like, compared to when they're like, if they were remote, do you get the same experience?
Yeah, we prefer to have our team all under the same roof. And so we have, like I said, so some people, because they started in Brazil, actually, we have a few people that we actually helped come over from Brazil. So they started when they were in Brazil, and that was like, it worked, but it is very different. I think when you actually have people in the office, it's way more collaborative. I think it's easier to like train people and get people more up to speed, because it's the conversations off the side of your desk that really build that, versus just like what their actual day-to-day tasks are, which I think you can manage from that side remotely.
Yeah, I agree totally. Because we've been remote for the past year and a half, is really a little over a year and a half is how long we've had the core team. And it's fine, but it does make it hard for new people to come on board. And And I do feel like we're missing out on the real like connecting
Yeah.
side of things, right? So yeah, so we want to add more people and we want to do it in an office, but at this point it might be Calgary, Edmonton.
Sure. Okay. So what are the, so like, we've got people listening to this, maybe people know people. So what roles are you hiring for right now?
For front end dev, for full stack, if you're full stack, good lord, there's almost nothing we wouldn't do to get you here. Like honestly, it's like a name it kind of thing right now. And we're looking for somebody to help with the more editorial capacity. So like working on Copy Hackers itself, because it's still doing well as a blog, thank God. So having somebody in there to really better own, because we get so many guest post pitches that are actually really good, and we have like this backlog of great content that it's on me to get it out there. And I'm like, it's one of those things that I just keep moving in my calendar, like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to review that blog post, I'll do that tomorrow. Because you're busy working on all the other stuff with the business. So that's the other role that we're looking for outside of 2 devs. We're at least 2 devs, please. If we had more engineers that were actually a good fit that we're applying, we would find a way to make that happen without question. But then also, yeah, somebody in editorial, someone awesome there.
Okay. I might be able to give you a hookup for like our Brazilian, because we've had a number of people come over from Brazil as devs who've been really amazing. So
that'd be amazing.
Hopefully can give you a bit of a hookup, at least, because I know the pain of trying to hire developers. We've doubled our team in the last year. So in the last year, we went from 35 to 70 people. So I know all about trying to hire good people.
Yes, right? That would be amazing. Oh my goodness. You don't even know. Thank you. Please.
Cool. So you're wearing these 2 hats. I know that you still have the copy hacker side. So tell me how, like, you mentioned data points and being able to pull data points into AirStory. One of the things, of course, around copywriting and doing a really good job in improving copy is around the data side and understanding what's working and what's not working. Does AirStory start to address that at all, or is that just go onto the feature request list right now? Or do you have some tips for how people, small business owners especially, can start to test their copy maybe in a lower touch sort of way, knowing that oftentimes small businesses are dealing with a lower amount of traffic?
Yeah, our goal is really in the center of things, in the center of the content like spectrum. So there are solutions that help you find what to write about, like what your next post should be about, like BuzzSumo and things like that, like things you should write about, or other analytics that show you how your past content has performed. And then there's the execution. So you get the idea, then you execute, and then you publish it and learn how it went. So we're in the execution middle of that. I don't see us having metrics for performance. I see us having metrics for things like how long it took for you to produce that, which could help then when you're like, okay, so tools exist to help me know how content is performing, but we don't know how long it took to write this. We don't know like any of the real data, like, is that a good investment or wasn't it? Because if we got decent traffic out of 2 hours of work versus great traffic out of 300 hours of work, like what can we do with that information? So our goal is to help in that middle of the spectrum to figure out, is this something that we want to get to a place where we can better say, yes, you should spend time on that. But we don't see that happening right away. We see more like, okay, let's just measure how much time people are spending in here. Then down the road, I imagine we'd have an integration to talk about effectiveness, or like a side project kind of thing where it's like, did that content pay off as like a calculator or some sort of thing? But that's not the plan right now.
Yeah. Okay. That makes total sense. Cool. All right. Yeah. Now I just want to go and run and I created my AirStory account just like maybe about an hour ago, and I was just poking around, but I want to now go and actually play with it and check it out. One of my personal goals this winter is to actually just start writing again. And now that I'm no longer writing papers for grad school, so
Isn't that the best feeling when that's over and you're like, wait, I can just do things because I want to now?
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, do check it out. And we've got like every Tuesday we do tutorials on writing something, and we show it inside Air Story. So if there are things like there are parts of Air Story that people who say great things to us about it didn't know were there, because it's just like we find that the more you use the tool, the more you discover things and are rewarded like for that use. So like, because Air Story is really, when it comes down to it, your notes and your document together. We've got ways to get your document, like content off your document, and turn that into a note, which is very useful when you're like writing a grad paper and you get to a place where you're like, okay, this section is not working at all, but you don't want to delete it. You would never delete it. But normally you would like cut it and paste it into some other document and hopefully remember where you put it, right? And what all the information was, all the data that was attached to it. So in Air Story, we have a thing like where you can highlight that text instead of like cutting it and pasting it somewhere else. You just click this little button to turn it into a card or a note. And from that point on, now it's off the page, but it's there if you actually decide to use it. So little things like that come up. I think you'll like it as you start going through.
Fantastic. Have you used it for creating your own courses? Because obviously you mentioned your courses. You've got tons of courses that people can go and learn all sorts of wonderful things about how to write better copy. So tell me how you've used Air Story to help your own course creation process.
Totally. So I did my most recent course, the 10X Freelance Copywriter, all 100% in Air Story. And that was so how I start my process is, okay, I know like generally what it's going to be about. So I create a project in Air Story called 10X Freelance Copywriter Curriculum. And then I create tabs for each lesson that I want. So a tab might be finding clients. And that might be a little big, right? But I start with that, call it finding clients, and then just go into outline mode and just like haul ass through an outline, right? Like just what are your ideas, put them down on the page. And then just keep going through that tab after tab, where every tab is a new lesson that I'm going to be scripting. Of course, as you get into that, you can find like, okay, you put the outline together. Clearly there's more here than you should have in a single lesson. Like finding clients isn't a single lesson. It's like a module, right? So then what can you do? You can switch out of outline mode and turn those into different tabs, like just by highlighting the text again and moving it over to a different tab. So that's really my process, is to do that scripting inside of there, starting with outline, just really get those ideas down fast without thinking about anything more than what you want to do, what you want to say. And then inviting my team in to have a look through what I've done and like flesh those pieces out. And that's like inviting my freelance copywriter, like I have a mastermind that I ran. And so getting those people in to say like, oh yeah, here's what I would add here, here's what you said here. And they can flesh out those different tabs, which is very, very nice of them to do. And from there, yeah, it's just like turning those into the scripts, right? You can download those, you can share that link. So sharing the link with the person who, like my videographer, like come over here, grab all of the scripts, upload them to the teleprompter like you would do any other time with any other thing. But of course, what's really good is once that's all done, once those are scripted, now I've got all of those scripts and I can just add another tab into the project that's like emails. Like, so the emails for the actual course that I'm going to be like the sales emails themselves, I have everything there that I need. I have all the cards I created are still there that I need, right? Again, those data points that tell people facts about finding clients and having those quotes attached to it, right? And all of the information that you need is right there. So when it's time for me to, like a case study, when it's time for me to write an email on a case study with Tarzan K and how she grew her freelance business, I just dragged that into the email, the same one that I had for the actual scripting. And when it comes time to do the long form sales page, I grab a long form sales page template and fill that in with stuff that's already in the cards. So Yeah, so that's the core of how I did like the actual scripting and then turning that into marketing materials as well.
Yeah, I'm really loving this. I'm already envisioning the demo that we can give for like how to use AirStory for course creators specifically, because of the fact that I know that course creators are battling just what you said, which is like, is this like the chapter, or is this the whole thing? Is this just one of the lessons within it? And recognizing that something like a Google Docs is really like, that's one thing if you're writing 6,000 words of continuous content, but especially when you're talking about a course, is you have all of these different chunks of information and data that you need to be able to move around. And, sometimes it's going to be a script for a video, something else might just be text copy, something else you might turn it into a quiz or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And it's sounding like AirStory really gives you that flexibility to play around with that content into a way that would then easily translate back into like actually building your course.
Totally. Absolutely. That's what it's built for, right? Is that easy, fluid movement around without relying on copy, paste, go find things, that kind of stuff. But we should put together, so we have a template marketplace where you can like throw templates in. Yeah, but we should put together like course script templates, because that's easy enough for us to do. So I'm going to make a note.
Yeah, where's the piece of paper?
I'm going to do that right after this.
I'm actually working on course templates, I think later this week. So there could be a really good tie-in. Awesome.
Nice. Amazing.
Fun. All right. So what else? I mean, so I know, let's just think of like, what else our listeners want to know? I mean, obviously, even though I know that you're wearing your AirStory hat for the most part right now, you are still the copy queen. When somebody is looking to up their copy game and they don't know where to start, what resources do you have to get people on their way?
There are so many. So it completely depends. But if you're like, okay, I'm a course creator, I want to sell more courses. Yep, I hear that. I'm there with you.
Everybody here.
Yeah, everyone, exactly. So, well, thankfully on copyhackers.com, there are free resources galore. There's also the paid courses, right? Like, so if you're doing launch copywriting, we do have a course called 10x launches, which is all about copywriting for launches. But there's so much free stuff on copyhackers.com. We've got tutorials on so if you go to copyhackers.com, you can go up to the top and it says free tutorials, or you can click on any blog post, and in the sidebar, and even on the homepage, anywhere you go, there's like a sidebar filled with free copywriting tutorials. And these are like video tutorials. Every week we do this thing called Tutorial Tuesdays, where we walk you through, let's say, a template for how to write a sales email. So here's a sales email for last day of your course launch. Here's the template for it. Here's why it is as it is. Here's how you would fill it in to write your own email. Bob's your uncle. So that's really it. Like, go over to Copy Hackers and check out those tutorials and really go through them. And it's like a growing, 2018 is going to be stupid for all the training we have planned. People are going to be overwhelmed. There's going to be a lot of detail there. So there's only going to be more where that came from. That will include long-form sales page training. If you're somebody who struggles to get people to your blog, we don't teach a lot about content writing, but it's how Copy Hackers became anything. So between the ebooks that we created and all of our blog posts, they're all long. And that's not just long for the sake of long, they're really detailed and research, which is again why AirStory exists, because that's how we write. And so if you're somebody who's interested in getting better at blogging, in 2018, this will help. In 2018, starting January 9th, once a month, I am going to just spend the day writing a blog post and talking out loud as I go through that. And so you can block out a day. The goal here is for somebody who wants to get better at blogging and wants the discipline and just finds him or herself not writing as often as they ought to or want to, or rushing to churn out a piece that's that wasn't what we wanted it to be at all. Then if you block out basically almost the first Thursday of every month, And of course, when you register for this, it's 100% free because it's all about showing you how to use AirStory too to be more successful. So that's why it's 100% free. But if you do that and block out a day, you can just sit there, get up, start writing. At the same time I start writing, I'll walk you through what I'm doing, what you should be doing. Then you go off and write quietly for an hour while I write on screen also quietly for an hour. This sounds boring as all hell, but when you're trying to get this thing done, do it. Sit down, block off the Thursday. We'll all write together. You won't be alone, and you won't really have an excuse to say no because you blocked it off in your calendar. And there are a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 other people who are also in the same boat as you doing this. So that's something else to experiment with and explore when it's time for you to start writing stuff that's going to generate traffic.
You mentioned sales pages, and this is one of those things that one of my random questions, which is around, I know that like in the past we had like the, like, you know, the long form sales pages with the yellow writing and like all the stuff. And like, where do you see, like, I'm always interested in how things evolve and change over time. So what do you see as maybe some of the trends that you're starting to see when it comes to sales page copy, or what's working or not, that we can sort of look forward to for 2018?
Yeah, those pages are still compelling to a point. So I have personally found, and I'm sure others will argue the opposite, but this is what I have found. Those pages continue to work. A long form sales page is a great thing, but the design of it is really a big question. So those quote unquote ugly long form sales pages with the yellow highlighting and the red bolding, those can sell like a $200 product really pretty well, right? If you follow the good narrative style and everything that you're supposed to do with a long form sales page, that's great. But what about when you get into like the $2,000 range, right? Or selling a mastermind or something like that? We have our programs are all $1,000 to $2,000, and we do not use those pages. We use long form sales pages, but we use really well designed long form sales pages that are increasingly like they feel good to look at. Like you don't get your back up just at first glance, right? So I'm 100% positive that will continue to be the thing going forward, is experiment with those long form sales pages. Do try them, because I mean, there's so much I can say about writing a long form sales page, like where to start. But point is, you can move people along the full awareness spectrum on a single page with a long form sales page. So you can take me from being pain aware. Like, I'm aware that my office is poorly designed, but it's just a pain, right? So I'm just like, okay, it's a pain. It's not a throbbing pain. I'm not dying from this pain. It's just a pain. But a long form sales page can be like, okay, you can touch on that pain when you start the page off, then you agitate it to really bring that to life, right? Like, what does that look like? Is it embarrassing to you? What does that cost? What's the cost of embarrassment when a client comes in your office and it looks like ghetto? Like, you walk through and do all that agitation stuff to get them to a point where like, okay, I'm going to look for solutions. And then you take your time walking them through all the cons of all those solutions you might be considering. And then you get into product. Like, okay, well, we have this thing that's actually a solution too, but here's why it's so much better than those things. Then you do the why, try, buy, kind of like demonstrating part of it. And then you still move further down to really elevate this desire for the product that you have. And this is all happening on one page. We're not making up anything. We're moving people through the stages of awareness that have always existed when it comes to writing copy and getting anybody to convert, period. Like, this has always been the way it is. We have to move people through those stages. So when you try to rush people through those stages, they don't feel as much, and you kind of lose all of that power that comes with like the emotional side of really bringing pains to life and telling them what's wrong with other solutions, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the more that people see that these long form sales pages, one, work, and two, can look quite nice as well, can actually be really good for your brand, the more we'll see people actually using them to sell things like not just courses, which they're an absolute no-brainer for courses, but software itself, like real software solutions, and other things, other services, et cetera, that you can use, that you want to sell online. So we have a test planned for Air Story to test a long form sales page versus our current page. We'll see how it goes.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's one of those things that I was like, I wonder what she'll have to say about this.
I got nothing but love for the long
Yeah.
form sales page.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Awesome. Right on. I think that's all I had to like ask about. I'm excited to get our listeners to head off and check out Air Story. I know that I am going to do that today. You and I need to figure out how we can work more together, because I definitely want to get Air Story and in front of our customer base so that course creators especially can use it, because it really sounds like it's going to solve one of those burning pains of like, how do you create content? So I think that that'll be really great. Joanna, thanks so much for joining me today. And again, so folks can find your stuff at
copyhackers.com to find all sorts of free resources on how to write confidently with better results. And of course, when you're ready to do that writing, which hopefully you're ready to do pronto, go over to airstory.co and create a free account right there.
Thanks so much. Cheers. Bye.